Well, hello, welcome back to Tale 3 Cabins. It's probably a little unusual to be out here in January talking about bicycles, but it's a good time to prepare because spring is around the corner. And if you're thinking about buying a new e-bike or a bicycle, prices are probably pretty good in the wintertime when you're looking for a bike. So I bought an e-bike for Karen back in the fall, and she used it and liked it, enjoyed it, and I tried it out and I liked it also, but it was kind of made for her size. She's just a little over 5 feet tall. So I had a chance to review this HIBOY P7, and they designate it as a commuter bike, but to me it's a little bit of an all-purpose bike. I think you could use it for commuting, your bike paths, your bike trails, recreation, and you could probably do a little bit of mountain biking with it too. I don't think I would get too crazy with it, but if you went on a novice or a moderate trail, that would be just fine. So when I was doing some research on the type of bike that I would buy, I had some criteria involved here. And the first thing is, and most importantly, it had to look like a bicycle. I wanted it to look very similar to bikes I used to ride, my old hybrid mountain bike. This one fits the bill. I think it kind of looks like a bike. Another thing is that I wanted it to have disc brakes, and this has disc brakes. They're mechanical brakes. Another thing is that you'll find when I was using my wife's e-bike just to experiment with, you travel a little bit faster than you normally used to. So if I used to cruise around 12, 13 miles per hour on the e-bike, I was going around 14 or 15 miles per hour, and then it varies from there, and sometimes up to 20. When you're traveling that fast, all the little bumps and imperfections in your path get magnified. So another thing that I would want is some suspension forks up front to absorb some of that shock. The seat on this is more for like an active rider, and it's probably uncomfortable to most people, and I think when you do buy a bike, most of the time people change their seat out. I'm going to try this for a little while, but I think what I'll do is I have a seat on my other bike that I can just throw on here that's a little bit wider. This is more for an active rider that doesn't want a lot of friction in its cadence, and if you're not riding it every day and just going on it once a week or once every couple weeks, you feel it the next day. So a little wider seat is going to be helpful to me. I would call this an introductory e-bike. It comes in right now, it's at $1,000. I don't know if it's going to go back up to its $1,399 price at the time of this video, but right now you can get this bike for $999. And there's a lot of stuff at a $999 price that this bike has, but you can get carried away on these e-bikes and spend up to $3,000, $4,000, even $5,000. It just depends how crazy you want to get carried away. But this bike is packing a lot for $999. Another thing that was important to me is the display on the control panel on the handlebars. I didn't just want 4 little lights that was just telling me what assist level I was in or how much power the battery had, whether it's going to be a quarter, a half, or 3/4 or full. I wanted something that's going to give me my miles per hour while I'm riding, an odometer, also tell me the pedal assist level that I'm in. And this has a nice little display, digital display. It packs a lot of information in a small space. It's off to the left. Another thing I like about this bike is it has a very wide handlebar, which gives you a lot of real estate up here on the front. The display panel is off to the left, and you have all this area in the front where if you want to mount your phone, some people mount GPSs, you want to put a little speaker on here. There's a lot of real estate to mount little additions on this handlebars, where on other bikes that's not the case. A lot of times the control panel is right in the center, takes up a lot of room, and the handlebars are not as wide. Another thing that I like about this bike is that it has a nice little headlight up front, and it shines pretty good. I'll try to demonstrate that when it gets dark to show you what it looks like at night. It does not have a rear red light in the back. It only has a rear reflector in the back here, but if you're thinking about changing your seat, so the seat that I have has a built-in light. It's more comfortable. It takes a few batteries, but it'll solve that problem if you want a rear tail light. Another thing I like is that this bike has a little horn on it, and it's got a good loud sounding horn, almost like a VW type horn. A lot of bikes might have a bell on it, and you're cruising down the bike path, you ding a little bell. This, you could just try to give it a quick tap. I think if you held it, that would be maybe a little bit rude on a bike path, but that's kind of cool, especially if you're using it as a commuter bike and you want to get people out of the way or kind of warn people that you're coming. You can charge the battery off the side here without taking it out. This time of year, after I'm doing this little presentation, it's going to get cold tonight, so I'm going to pop the battery out. There's a key that you need to use to remove the battery, and then there's a little auxiliary slot. So if you turn the key, the battery pops out partially. You turn this little knob here, and then you can take the battery all the way out. So you don't have to worry about the battery falling out once you turn the key. You have a two-step system in getting that battery out. A couple other things when I was looking at e-bikes is these fat tire bikes are very popular, and I'm not sure exactly why, if that's just like a thing going on, but I see a lot of people on our regular bike paths with these fat tire bikes. To me, that's something you'd want to use when you're in sand, maybe a lot of mud or snow. For most folks, that doesn't apply. So a fat tire bike to me is just creating more friction, making it harder to pedal, and if it's going to be an e-bike, you're going to use up your battery power a lot more. Another feature I wanted in an e-bike is a lot of introductory models only give you pedal assist, where I wanted a dedicated throttle. So if I got tired of pedaling or I wanted to take a little break, I could just use the throttle and I don't have to pedal at all. This has a dedicated throttle. It's a twist throttle on the handlebar, kind of like a motorcycle. It's got a nice feel to it. It doesn't feel like the spring is very strong. I don't think it's going to tire my wrist out if I wanted to hold it the whole time. Some people might prefer a thumb throttle. I don't mind either one, to be honest with you. I've tried them both. This is a 9-speed with a Shimano shifter. A lot of introductory bikes are only 1-speeds, and they expect that the motor is going to take care of when you need to climb a hill or when you're going down a hill. A lot of them, when you go above your introductory models, they may be a 7-speed. This happens to have 9 speeds. So I've been hemming and hawing with these e-bikes for the last 2 years, and I wasn't sure just how much this was going to cut into my activity level if I was going to buy one, if I'd get the same amount of exercise. And I try to go bike riding every now and then, but I think having an e-bike is a little bit more fun. It might get you out there more. And I noticed when I was borrowing my wife's and testing that out, I ended up being out longer and going farther than I thought, and I still got a pretty good workout. And I think the jury is still out on that, at least for me, when it comes to activity level. I think if this helps me get out more and have a little bit more fun, and maybe there's certain days where I wouldn't want to go out because it's too hot, or there's certain days where maybe my knee is acting up a little bit, some joint pain or whatever, knowing that I have the motor on here, the pedal assist, this might get me out the door, where on other days it might not have. So the biggest buyer of e-bikes are people in my age group, give or take 10 years, plus or minus. And we're buying the most of them, even though when they advertise these e-bikes and they show these young people riding them and stuff like that, it's people my age, like me, that are purchasing these things. So I just want to do a little video on this. So if you watch this channel before, you know we do a lot of projects around here between the 3 cabins, but we also like to have our recreation too. So we usually do a lot of hiking, kayaking, still did some biking, but I think having this will help get me out the door more often. As you saw, this was delivered by FedEx. They dropped it off. I'll show you how it was packed. It was packed pretty well. Doesn't seem like there was anything that could damage it the way that they packed. A lot of cushion, a lot of foam, and a lot of zip ties. Once we unpacked that, got all the zip ties off, got everything unpacked, it was time to assemble it. And there's really only 5 steps when it comes to the assembly. The first step was to put on the handlebars. You need to make sure that the forks are going to be in the right direction, and pay particular attention to that. But that didn't go too bad. The next step I put on was the kickstand, because I figure when I put the wheel on, I'm going to need a kickstand right away to balance it. So I put that on, and then I found when I was putting on the front tire, it was a little bit easier for me to flip the bike over and just put the tire on that way. I had to adjust the brake a little bit to get the disc to slide through for the disc brakes, and once I got that in there, it was no problem. After the front tire's on, there's the seat, and then putting on the headlight, and that's really all there is to it. 5 steps really to it, to assembling the bike. Went pretty quick. Everything's pretty self-explanatory. The instructions were pretty easy to follow. There's a lot of stickers on the side of this bike that tell you like which pedal is which. That's a step I forgot, is you also have to put the pedals on, and that was well marked. The pedals had a sticker on there. Also, where you mount the pedals had a sticker to make sure you went with right and left and left. So nice winter weather, and things are on the upswing for the next coming week. What I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get out and give you some real world testing, see what the top speed of this is, using the pedal assist and the throttle, stuff like that. Okay, I am in normal pedal mode without any assistance. And the bike seems fairly smooth, fairly easy to pedal. I don't notice much more difference than my regular bike that is not an e-bike. I'm gonna go to the assist mode here. Gonna go to first one up. Okay, I'm in assist level 1. I'm doing about 14, 15 miles per hour. It's not -7 degrees like it was about a week and a half ago. It's 51 degrees right now, overcast. We're still got some snow that's melting. You can use the throttle at any time. So you can use the throttle at any time. You really don't need to be in any assist mode. I use the throttle, it's just going to bump me up even if I'm pedaling. I hear a slight rub on the front disc, so it probably just needs a little of adjustment. Okay, this is just throttle only, no pedaling, fairly flat surface. I'm topped out at 24 miles an hour, 24 and a half. From the time that I click on the pedal assist button, so if I'm starting out at 0 and I click on 1, there's maybe about a half second or second delay before you notice it kick in. So, Alright, so I'm on assist level 2 and I'm doing about 17 miles an hour. I tried to pick a fairly flat area of the parkway here. Of course, you're going to vary with the terrain. Thank you. Level 3, pedaling about the same I was with level 1 and 2, is 18 miles an hour. Passing on your left. Passing on your left. Okay, this is assist level 4. Same amount of pedaling, takes me up to about 21 miles per hour. Okay, this motor is a 500 watt motor. It's capable of ranges for a guy my size, 33 miles just with the throttle. Your mileage will vary, of course, with terrain. If you weigh less than me, you could probably get a little bit more out of it. On their website, they say 38 miles with just the throttle. Pass it on your left. So it looks like the top speed that you can achieve is about 28 miles per hour in level 5. All right, let's go back inside for some final thoughts. Okay, a few points to make. The battery weighs 10 pounds. It's a 48 volt battery. The battery is 15 amp hours or 700 watt hours. It weighs about 10 pounds. So if you're a little concerned about putting an e-bike on one of your old bike racks, if you take this out, you're gonna drop the pounds down about 46 pounds on the bike itself. The bike with the battery is 56 pounds. The cables are managed very well. They're nicely run. They're wrapped. They run through the frame of the bike. They also have plugs on there, which is a pretty big deal. If you're looking for an e-bike, you want to make sure the wired components have plugs. So if you were to have an issue with, let's say you wiped out and you ruined your little display here, your computer, you could just unplug it, unscrew this, get a new one, and plug a new one back in. If there's no plugs, you might have to run cabling all the way through the frame down to the control box, which most of the time are located down by the crank. The range of height for this type of bike is 5'4" to 6'5". I am 6'2", and I was comfortable on this bike. So I gotta say, I didn't know what to expect when I got this. You start thinking like a lower end introductory, lower price bike that maybe will really cheap it out, but I was pleasantly surprised. If you're looking for an e-bike, you want to jump into something and you want that bicycle look to it, you don't want the small fat tires, this seems like a really good buy. I really enjoyed riding it. I look forward to the spring when the weather breaks a little bit more and it's a little warmer, and I could test it out a little bit more, take it on some more rides and bike paths. The only bad thing I had to say, and this is typical of just about any bike you buy nowadays, is that most people don't care for the seats and they'll put something on there that they prefer. I think a lot of manufacturers know that, so they probably just cheap out on a seat knowing that you're most likely going to replace it. And I would probably just put a little bit more cushiony with some springs back here and be a little bit more comfortable overall. So that's going to do it for this e-bike review. I appreciate everybody watching these videos. Hope you enjoy and subscribe to them. Click on that little bell when you want to know when a new one is coming out. And keep an eye on us. Take care, everybody.